The massive alien ship appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning, its dark shape blocking the sun over New York City. People stood frozen in the streets, phones pointed skyward, as the vessel's shadow spread across Manhattan like an eclipse. In the United Nations Emergency Chamber, world leaders gathered around screens showing the same message repeating in every language. The Galactic Council requests audience with Earth's leadership. Dr. James Walker wiped sweat from his forehead as he hurried through the UN building's corridors. As Earth's leading expert in theoretical alien communications, he had prepared for this moment his entire life. Yet nothing could have truly prepared him for what was coming. The alien that stepped out of the transport beam looked almost human, except for its height, nearly 8 feet tall, and skin that shimmered like polished metal. It introduced itself as Ambassador Stone of the Galactic Council. "We have been watching your species," the ambassador said, voice echoing through the chamber. Its perfect English surprised everyone. "Our scans show your kind to be, unfortunately, limited." The room fell silent. Dr. Walker stepped forward. "Limited in what way, Ambassador?" Ambassador Stone's expression showed something between pity and disgust. "Your bodies are fragile. You tire quickly. Your lives are brief. Even your children take years to mature. By all measurable standards, humans are a Class D species." The world leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. President Thompson stood up. "And what exactly does Class D mean?" "It means," Ambassador Stone said, "that you rank among the weakest intelligent species we have encountered. Your muscles are barely stronger than those of your Earth primates. Your reflexes are slow. You lack natural defenses. You require constant rest and sustenance." Dr. Walker noticed how the ambassador's guards towered over everyone, their movements unnaturally quick and precise. Each probably had the strength of 10 men. "But we've built cities," Dr. Walker argued. "We've split the atom, reached space, cured diseases." The ambassador raised a hand, silencing him. "Yes, you've managed some basic technological advancement. This is why we're here. The Council has decided to offer Earth a position in the galactic community." Relief spread through the room, but Walker felt uneasy. There was something in the ambassador's tone. "As a servant race, of course." The words hit like a physical blow. Angry mutters filled the chamber. "Servant race," President Thompson demanded. "It's a generous offer," Ambassador Stone continued. "You'll be protected, guided, given limited access to galactic technology. In return, you'll provide labor and resources to superior species. The alternative is complete isolation. No trade, no cultural exchange, no protection from less friendly races." Dr. Walker stepped forward again. "And if we refuse both options?" The ambassador's metallic skin flickered with what might have been amusement. "Then you remain alone in a very dangerous galaxy. The Council's decision is final. You have 1 Earth month to decide." After the aliens departed, the emergency session dissolved into chaos. Arguments broke out between those who wanted to accept the Council's protection and those who demanded resistance. Dr. Walker stood at a window, watching the alien ship hover above the city. He thought about human history, about all the times superior civilizations had looked down on weaker ones. They had always missed something important. His phone buzzed. A message from his research team. Preliminary scans of the alien ship showed interesting vulnerabilities. Their technology was advanced, but surprisingly rigid, unimaginative, like they had followed the same development path for thousands of years without questioning it. Walker smiled. The aliens had made the oldest mistake in history, judging a species only by its physical strength. They had missed humanity's real power, their ability to adapt, to think differently, to change the rules of the game entirely. He opened his laptop and began typing. They had 1 month to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. And he had a feeling the Galactic Council was in for quite a surprise. 3 days after first contact, the Galactic Council's observation team arrived on Earth. 6 tall aliens in shimmering suits spread across different continents to study human civilization. Their leader, Observer Green, chose to examine North America, starting with a typical human workplace. The alien stood in the middle of a busy construction site, watching humans scurry around like ants. Its scanning device hummed constantly, recording data about human physical capabilities. Fascinating, Observer Green muttered, watching a worker lift materials. They need machines to move anything heavier than 100 units. Even their strongest members can barely match a young council species child. Dr. Walker, assigned as the observer's guide, tried not to show his annoyance. Yet we built the pyramids thousands of years ago, and now we build skyscrapers that touch the clouds. The observer ignored him, moving to watch a group of workers taking a lunch break. They must stop to consume nutrients every few hours, and they waste a third of their day in sleep state. How inefficient. Throughout the week, Observer Green's reports grew more dismissive. Humans needed constant water intake. They couldn't survive extreme temperatures without protection. Their reaction times were sluggish compared to council standards. But Dr. Walker noticed something interesting. While the observers measured human limits, they paid little attention to how humans overcame them. At a medical facility, Observer Green watched a surgery with disinterest. Primitive. They must cut open bodies to heal them. Yet we've doubled our lifespan in just a century, the head surgeon replied calmly, her hands steady as she worked. How much has your species improved in that time? The question went unanswered. At a military base, the observers watched training exercises with barely hidden amusement. Human soldiers could only carry a fraction of what council warriors could lift. Their fastest runners wouldn't qualify for children's races on council worlds. But General Roberts noticed them paying no attention to the strategy sessions, where soldiers solved complex battlefield scenarios. They ignored the innovative ways humans use terrain and technology to overcome stronger opponents. In the research labs, Observer Green dismissed human scientists working on new materials. Their minds need rest after only 16 hours of work. Council researchers can think continuously for days. Dr. Walker watched the alien ignore the dozens of revolutionary ideas scribbled on whiteboards, the unique approaches to old problems, the questions no one had thought to ask before. After 2 weeks, the observers gathered to prepare their report. Dr. Walker managed to get a copy through his contacts. It was exactly what he'd expected. Species, human. Classification, Class D. Confirmed. Physical capabilities, severely limited. Durability, poor. Lifespan, brief. Resource requirements, excessive. Technology level, basic. Recommendation, suitable for low-level labor under supervision. That evening, Walker met with a small group of military and scientific leaders in a secure room deep under the Pentagon. The walls were covered with photos and data about the observer's ship and technology. They think they're being thorough, Walker said, but they're missing everything important. They measure our muscles but ignore our minds. They count our limitations but miss our drive to overcome them. And they still haven't noticed we're studying them just as much as they're studying us, General Roberts added with a smile. Professor Adams, their top physicist, pointed to technical readouts on the wall. Their technology is advanced but follows predictable patterns. They haven't had to innovate for generations. Why would they? They're strong enough not to need it. And that, Dr. Walker said, is exactly why they'll never see us coming. They think they're watching rats in a maze, but they don't realize we're redesigning the maze while they watch. The meeting lasted late into the night as they planned their next moves. Above them, the observers prepared their final reports, confident in their assessment of humanity's weakness, completely unaware that they had missed everything that made humans truly dangerous. Observer Green stood puzzled at the edge of Death Valley, watching a group of humans run across the desert. The temperature was well above what their species should tolerate, yet they kept going. Its scanning device showed signs of extreme stress on their bodies. But they didn't stop. This makes no sense, the alien muttered. "They're far beyond their physical limits." Dr. Walker, standing nearby under a sun umbrella, smiled. "It's called an ultramarathon. Humans do this for fun." Fun. The word seemed to confuse the observer even more. In the Arctic Circle, Observer Blue faced similar confusion. Humans worked on oil rigs in temperatures that should have killed them. Instead of dying, they wore protective suits they had invented and kept working, telling jokes about the cold. The observer's daily reports began showing signs of uncertainty. Humans were physically weak, yes, but they kept doing things they shouldn't be able to do. A message from Observer read in Asia: watched humans climb a mountain called Everest. Environmental conditions lethal. They'd reached the top anyway, unable to explain behavior. From Observer Yellow in Africa, humans enter dangerous caves to study ancient art. No natural night vision. No protective shell. They built lights and safety equipment instead. Highly irregular. The Council's assessment team met in their ship, sharing increasingly troubled findings. They work in space despite having no natural protection against radiation, Observer Green said. They dive to ocean depths that would crush their fragile bodies, using machines they built, Observer Blue added. And they keep trying even when they fail, Observer Red noted. Most species give up when something is clearly impossible. Humans just try again differently. Back on Earth, Dr. Walker attended another secret meeting with world leaders. The room was tense with anticipation. "The observers are getting nervous," he reported. "They're starting to realize their scans missed something important." General Roberts stepped forward. "Our analysis of their technology continues to show interesting patterns. They're advanced, but their solutions are straightforward. They don't think around problems like we do." Professor Adams projected an image of the alien ship's engine design. "Look at this. They made their engines bigger and stronger because they could. We had to make ours clever because we couldn't match their strength. Our solutions are more efficient, more creative." "And there's more," Dr. Walker added. "Their entire civilization is built on the idea that physical strength determines worth. They've never faced a serious challenge to this belief." President Thompson leaned forward. "How do they handle failure?" "They hardly know what it is," Walker replied. "Their physical advantages meant they rarely failed at anything. Humans fail all the time. We're used to it. We learn from it. We grow stronger because of it." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. The observers had discovered something new about humans, something that truly shocked them. Observer Green burst into the UN building, its metallic skin flickering with agitation. "Your species doesn't know when to stop," it accused. "We've reviewed your history. You keep trying impossible things. You fail, but you don't accept failure. You change your approach and try again. This is not normal behavior." Dr. Walker met the alien's gaze calmly. "That's because humans have a different definition of impossible. You built flying machines despite having no wings," the observer continued. "You made devices to see atoms. You sent signals through solid objects. You cured diseases that should have ended your species. Your bodies are weak, but you refuse to accept your limitations." "We don't see them as limitations," Walker replied. "We see them as challenges." The observer's translator struggled with its next words. "The Council may have made an error in classification. Your species requires further study." As the alien hurried away, Dr. Walker smiled. The mighty Galactic Council was finally beginning to understand. They had completely misunderstood what made a species truly strong. And they hadn't even discovered humanity's greatest strength yet, their ability to work together and share their innovations with others. That revelation would shake the galaxy to its core. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Hundreds of alien species gathered to watch humanity face their official assessment tests. These challenges had been designed over centuries to measure a species' worth, always favoring physical strength and natural abilities. Ambassador Stone stood before the gathered council members. "The humans have requested to take all 5 challenges at once, rather than over the traditional 5-year period. Laughter echoed through the hall. No species had ever attempted such a thing. Dr. Walker led the small human team into the vast arena. They carried only basic tools and wore simple protective suits. The alien audience towered over them, their metallic skin reflecting the bright lights. First challenge. Survival, announced the council leader. Survive one full rotation in the death zone. The human team was transported to a chamber filled with toxic gas, extreme heat, and crushing pressure. The aliens watched, expecting the fragile humans to quickly retreat. Instead, Walker's team activated their protective suits, designed by combining their study of alien technology with human innovation. The suits were far smaller and more efficient than anything the council had seen. Second challenge. Strength, came the announcement. Move the eternal stone. A massive black cube sat in the arena, weighing as much as a small mountain. Council species moved such objects with their natural strength. The humans brought out a small device. What is that? Ambassador Stone demanded. We call it a gravity manipulator, Walker explained. Since we can't lift the stone, we made it lighter instead. The stone floated up easily. More murmurs from the watching aliens. Third challenge. Combat, boomed the voice. Defeat the Guardian. A massive warrior stepped forward, covered in natural armor, strong enough to crush steel. The humans sent in their smallest team member, who carried only a small rod. The warrior charged. The human pressed a button, and a force field appeared, using the Guardian's own strength against it. The massive alien went flying. We studied how your species moves, Walker explained to the shocked audience. You're strong but predictable. We designed countermeasures. Fourth challenge, mind, came the announcement. Solve the eternal puzzle. A complex holographic maze appeared, one that usually took years to solve. The humans huddled together, discussing quietly. Within hours, they found 3 different solutions. How? Demanded Ambassador Stone. We're used to looking for alternative paths, Walker said. When you're not strong enough to break down walls, you get very good at finding doors. Final challenge. Creation, build something new. The humans revealed their last device. It looked simple, almost crude compared to council technology. Walker placed it in the center of the arena. We call it a replicator, he said. It doesn't just build things. It builds things that can build other things. The device hummed to life, creating smaller versions of itself, each one slightly improved. Silence fell over the great hall. Ambassador Stone stepped forward. This changes the balance of power. No species has ever completed all challenges in one day. And your solutions, they're unlike anything we've seen. Because you've always valued strength above all else, Walker replied. Humans had to become strong in different ways. We had to become adaptable, creative, collaborative. The council leader raised a hand for silence. The assessment is complete. Humanity's classification must be reconsidered. But more importantly, we must consider what their presence means for the galaxy. Dr. Walker looked up at the vast alien audience. We're happy to share our innovations. That's another thing about humans. We believe everyone can become stronger by working together. As the human team left the arena, the Great Hall erupted in chaos. Species that had been considered inferior for centuries were already asking about human methods and technology. Ambassador Stone watched them go, finally understanding the truth. The council had been measuring the wrong kind of strength all along. And this was just the beginning of the changes humanity would bring to the galaxy. 3 months after the challenge day, the Galactic Council faced an unprecedented situation. In a small meeting room on their central world, Ambassador Stone read reports with growing alarm. The Blue Star species have adopted human construction methods, he announced to the Emergency Council. Their efficiency has increased by 300%. The rock dwellers are using human design tools, another council member added. They're mining depths we thought impossible. Across the galaxy, species previously classified as inferior were learning from humanity's example. Dr. Walker traveled from world to world, sharing Earth's knowledge freely. On the crystal plains of a distant planet, he met with the light beings, a species considered too fragile for most work. "Your bodies may be delicate," he told them, "but your ability to perceive light is amazing. We've designed tools that work with your natural talents." Within weeks, the light beings became the galaxy's best operators of new scanning technology. Their weakness had become their strength. In the deep caves of another world, the shadow crawlers, once dismissed as primitive, learned to combine their natural stealth with human technology. They soon became master explorers of dangerous worlds. Ambassador Stone watched the reports flood in with growing concern. "They're changing everything. These lesser species are rising above their natural place." "Perhaps," said the council leader, "we were wrong about natural place." The message spread from world to world. Humans don't believe in limits. They find ways around them, and they're willing to teach others. Dr. Walker stood before a great gathering of previously low-ranked species. "Earth was alone for thousands of years," he told them. "We learned that survival doesn't always mean being the strongest. Sometimes it means being the most creative, the most adaptable, or the best at working together." A new alliance began to form. Species that had once served the Council now shared knowledge and resources. They called themselves the Progressive Alliance. The rock dwellers improved human mining tools. The light beings enhanced human sensors. The shadow crawlers added their stealth knowledge to human exploration ships. Each species contributed its unique strengths. In her lab on Earth, Professor Adams worked with alien scientists, combining their different approaches. "Look," she said, pointing to a new device. "Your natural strength plus our innovative design. Together, we're better than either of us alone." The Council's power structure began to crumble. Species that had been servants for generations now built their own ships, made their own choices, solved their own problems. "This is disorder," Ambassador Stone protested in the Great Hall. "These species know their place." "No," said Dr. Walker, standing before the Council. "They're finding their true place. Every species has something valuable to offer. Humans didn't make them strong. We just helped them recognize the strength they already had." The Council watched in amazement as their carefully ordered galaxy transformed. Species they had dismissed as weak now led the way in technology, exploration, and discovery. A young alien asked Ambassador Stone, "Why did you fear this change?" The ambassador looked at the thriving worlds on the display screen. The light beings had discovered 3 new habitable planets using their enhanced sensors. The rock dwellers had built incredible underground cities using human architectural principles. The shadow crawlers had saved 2 species from extinction using their combined skills. "We thought strength meant power over others," Stone admitted. "The humans showed us it means helping others find their power." As Dr. Walker prepared to return to Earth, he received messages from across the galaxy. Species that had once been at the bottom of the Council's hierarchy were now leading incredible projects. They thanked humanity not for giving them strength, but for showing them how to use the strength they'd always had. The galaxy was changing, and everyone knew. This was just the beginning. The emergency alarms woke Dr. Walker in the middle of the night. Earth's new space defense system had detected a large fleet of Council ships approaching. "They're trying to stop what's coming," General Roberts said as they hurried to the command center. "The Council's oldest members are making their move." On screens around the room, they watched as traditionally powerful species launched attacks on Progressive Alliance worlds. The Council's strongest warriors expected an easy victory over the weaker species. They were wrong. On the crystal plains, light being sensors detected the attack ships long before they arrived. Instead of finding helpless victims, the Council forces faced clever traps and advanced defense systems. The rock dwellers' cities simply disappeared underground, using technology that combined their natural digging skills with human innovation. The attackers found only empty ground. "Impossible," roared the Council fleet commander. These species were defenseless just months ago. Dr. Walker smiled as reports came in. The shadow crawlers had evacuated 3 threatened worlds without the Council even noticing. The rock dwellers sheltered refugees in vast underground sanctuaries. Species that once barely survived now protected themselves and others. But the real surprise came from Earth. As the Council's main fleet approached, they expected to find a primitive defense force. Instead, they met something unprecedented. A united fleet crewed by members of 20 different species, all working together. "This is the Progressive Alliance Defense Force," Walker announced on all channels. "We suggest you reconsider your attack." The Council commander laughed. "You've gathered the weakest species in the galaxy. What can you possibly do?" The answer came quickly. Alliance ships moved in ways the Council had never seen, combining human creativity with the natural talents of various species. Light-being sensors found weaknesses in Council shields. Rock-dweller technology protected Alliance ships from the strongest weapons. "Hold position." Professor Adams called from her command post. "Time to show them our latest project." A small device launched from the Alliance flagship. It multiplied rapidly, creating a network of energy fields that completely surrounded the Council fleet. "What is this?" demanded the Council commander. "We call it the Web," Walker replied. "It combines technology from 12 different species. No single species could create it alone. But together, the Council fleet found itself trapped, unable to move or fight. "This is what happens when we work together," Walker continued. "Each species contributes its unique strengths. We're not stronger than you. We're strong in different ways." In the Great Hall, the Council leader watched the battlefields in shock. The old order was crumbling before his eyes. Species that had been servants for generations now protected themselves better than their former masters. Ambassador Stone stepped forward. "We must think carefully about our next actions. These innovations are spreading faster than we can control." "Control was always your mistake," Walker's voice came through the hall's speakers. "You tried to control other species instead of helping them grow. You ranked them instead of learning from them." Across the galaxy, more species joined the Alliance every day. They shared their knowledge, combined their strengths, and found new ways to solve old problems. The Council's military advantage, held for centuries, disappeared in weeks. Not through violence, but through cooperation and innovation. In the command center, Dr. Walker watched as Council ships began to retreat. "They finally understand," he said. "True strength isn't about dominating others. It's about lifting everyone up." General Roberts nodded. "And the galaxy will never be the same." As the Council fleet disappeared into deep space, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear for generations were finally free to reach their full potential. The Great Shift had begun, and there would be no going back to the old ways. 1 year after the Great Shift, the galaxy gathered to witness something unprecedented. The old Council chamber, once reserved for only the strongest species, now held representatives from every known civilization. Dr. Walker stood at the center of the transformed Great Hall. The rigid rows of seats had been replaced by a circular arrangement where all species sat as equals. Even the smallest beings had spaces designed for their comfort. "Welcome to the first assembly of the United Species Federation," he announced. Above him, holographic displays showed the message in 1,000 different languages. Ambassador Stone, now serving as a bridge between the old Council and the new order, stepped forward. "A year ago, I thought humans were among the weakest species we'd encountered. I've never been so glad to be wrong." The gathered representatives applauded. Many used devices designed by humans working together with other species, allowing even the most physically limited beings to make themselves heard. Professor Adams presented the Federation's first report. "In 1 year of cooperation, we've achieved more than the old Council did in a century. The Light Being's enhanced sensors have discovered 50 new habitable worlds. The Rock Dwellers' underground cities now shelter millions. The Shadow Crawlers lead our most successful exploration teams. Walker nodded. And that's just the beginning. Every day we discover new combinations of abilities, new ways to work together. A huge screen showed images from across the galaxy. Species once ranked as inferior now led major projects. They solved problems in ways the old council had never imagined. Some asked how humans took over the galaxy. Walker continued. The truth is, we didn't take over. We helped set it free. Every species has unique gifts. True strength comes from sharing those gifts, not hoarding them. The former council leader, now just one voice among many, stood to speak. I've lived for centuries, but only now do I understand. We thought we were strong because we could dominate others. Real strength is helping others become strong. Walker activated a final display, showing the galaxy's achievements over the past year. Disease rates dropped by 80% through combined medical knowledge. Space travel became 300% safer using multiple species' natural abilities. Trade increased by 500% as species shared their unique resources. A dozen previously endangered species thrived in new environments. Former servants became leaders in science, exploration, and innovation. Humans didn't do this alone. Walker reminded everyone. We just showed what's possible when we stopped measuring strength by a single standard. Ambassador Stone touched the display, adding another statistic. Conflict between species down by 95%. Turns out it's hard to fight when you're busy helping each other. The assembly erupted in cheers. Species that once couldn't even enter the council chamber now led discussions about the galaxy's future. But our greatest achievement, Walker said as the room quieted, isn't in these numbers. It's in the way we now see each other. There are no more weak species, no more servants, only partners, each bringing their own strength to our shared future. The gathering ended with a ceremony that would have been impossible a year ago. Representatives from every species, from the smallest to the largest, the physically strongest to the most fragile, stood together as equals. Professor Adams smiled at Walker as they watched. Remember when they called humans weak? Walker looked around at the changed galaxy, at species working together in ways never imagined before. We were never weak. We just had a different kind of strength. And now everyone knows their own strength too. As the assembly closed, messages spread across the galaxy. The old order was gone forever. A new age had begun, built not on domination, but on cooperation. Not on physical power, but on the combined strengths of all. The weak humans hadn't just shocked the galaxy. They had transformed it, one shared innovation at a time. And this was still just the beginning.